Tonight you fall asleep in the year no one remembers, because numbers were not made to hold this kind of time. The sky is not black, but amber, the color of smoke caught in light. Somewhere, water drips from a cracked clay pot. Somewhere a god you've never heard of watches without blinking. You lie still beneath a roof of woven reed. The mat beneath your body is rough, splintered, warmed by breath and dust and memory. Your ribs rise, they fall, and the night presses in. It smells of ash and animal fat, of river silt and cracked brick, of the hot breath of strangers sleeping too near. The air does not move. It simply waits. There is no lamp to light. Only a dull red ember half dead in its bowl, feeding on the last splinter of wood it can find. It glows like an eye that doesn't set care to close. Outside, the city pulses. Not with music or laughter, but with the tired moan of carts dragging through mud, of sandals slapping baked clay, of someone cursing a god beneath their breath, and someone else begging one. You are not a priest. You are not a king. You are not remembered. But for tonight the story is yours. And Babylon, beautiful, brutal Babylon, opens her mouth to swallow you whole. Breathe in slowly. Let your name fall away. And come. It is time to begin. You wake up because your back hurts. You always wake up that way. The mat beneath you is barely that. A sagging weave of dry reeds lashed together with fraying cord, pressed thinner each night by the weight of your bones. One end of it sags where your elbow wore through last season. The floor beneath is hard-baked clay, cracked in places where water once pooled, now dry and flaking like old skin. A beetle crawls across your neck and you slap at it without much urgency. The beetle survives. You are less sure about yourself. Around you, other bodies lie in their own arrangements of breath and decay. Cousins, uncles, someone's mother, someone's second wife. You don't remember how many live in the same room anymore. The lines between relation and neighbor have long since blurred. What matters is that they breathe, and snore, and sweat in their sleep. The air is thick. Even before the sun comes, it hangs like wet wool, smelling of dried fish, old oil, and the slow fermentation of unwashed skin. A child coughs in their sleep. An old man turns over and mutters something to a long-dead lover. Someone farts. No one laughs. The wall nearest you is made of mud brick. It crumbles when you press too hard. You've learned not to lean. Above your head, the red ceiling sags in the middle, collecting dust and small spiders. Once, it collapsed entirely in the middle of the night, showering the family with dust and roof lizards. Your brother coughed mud for days. You still don't know where the lizards went. You do not have a blanket. There is a shared cloth in the middle of the room that people fight over in winter. But now it is the season of sweating. The season of cracked lips and throbbing temples. The heat enters through the walls and does not leave. It lives here. It is older than you. It always wins. You curl on your side, then shift back. The spot you lie on has grown damp. You tell yourself it's just sweat. You hope it's just sweat. There is no pillow. There is a woven sack filled with old grain husks, meant to cradle your head. It does not. You've taken to folding your arm under your skull. Some mornings your fingers are numb for hours. You shake them until they remember you. There is no privacy. There are no dreams that remain your own. If you cry in the night, someone hears. If you speak a name in your sleep, someone asks about it in the morning. You have learned silence. You have learned stillness. You have learned that in a room this small, you must disappear just to survive. A rat scurries behind the water jar. It knocks over a broken bowl. You flinch. No one else wakes. The rats are common here. They know the best paths, the warm corners, the bits of old grain in the cracks. They are braver than you. You used to be afraid of them. Now you worry more that someone might kill them, and the smell of their rotting bodies might linger for days. Once a rat died behind the oil shelf. It took 2 weeks to find. By then everything tasted like decay. Your mouth is dry. You long for water, but to move is to wake others. To step in the dark is to risk the scorpion corner, the place near the door where the walls breathe and the floor bites. You decide to wait. A few more minutes. A few more hours. Time means little here. You measure your life by discomfort. The sun has not yet risen, but the night has stopped pretending. The edge of the world begins to glow, that strange half-light where you can see only shapes, not things. A clay pot, a child's foot, the outline of your own limbs. You remember a dream. You think it involved a river, or perhaps drowning. You are never sure anymore which dreams are dreams and which are memories. They all feel equally distant, equally useless. You close your eyes again, not to sleep, but to pretend. Pretending is a form of survival. If you lie still enough, the day might mistake you for a stone. If you breathe quietly, it might pass over you and strike someone else. The first sound is always the call of the rooster, but this morning it is a shout, sharp, outside the house, not for you, for someone richer, someone needed in the market, or the stables, or the gods know where. You remain still. The others begin to stir. Limbs shift. Joints crack. A cough turns into a spit. Someone curses the morning in a voice like broken gravel. A baby begins to cry, somewhere deep in the house, or the neighbor's house. It makes no difference. You all breathe the same dust. The city awakens not with music but with ache. You push yourself upright, slowly, one palm flat against the mat. You feel the familiar throb behind your eyes, the tightness in your calves, the dull protest of your lower back, as if your bones resent the return of gravity. You scratch your chest. There's a rash that won't go away. It's not new. You gave up on ointment seasons ago. Beside you, someone groans and sits up. You do not speak to each other. Speech is too expensive this early. The words haven't boiled yet. You reach for your wrap, a strip of coarse cloth folded beneath your knees. It smells of salt and sun and the labor you haven't yet done. You tie it loosely around your waist. You are ready now, as ready as you ever are. Outside, the world waits, but for now this room, this air, this woven mat, this is your temple. Your temple of survival, of breath, of continued uninterrupted disappointment. You press your forehead to your knees and whisper something that isn't quite a prayer. The reed mat creaks beneath you. The rat returns to the corner, and the day begins again, just like it always does. But maybe, tonight, you'll dream of something better. Or nothing at all. And maybe now, you can rest again, even if only for a breath. Your skin itches before you Sev even stood up. Not because of insects, though there are always insects. Not because of illness, though your sores haven't healed in weeks. No, it's the fabric. The way it scratches like dried reeds across the same bruised patches of skin day after day. The way it remembers your shape even after you take it off. The way it still smells like your father's sweat, because it was his once, and his father's before that. Your tunic is a strip of woven linen, the color of old ash and riverbank sand with stains you've stopped identifying. It reaches just below your knees, not for modesty but because that's all the fabric there was. The hem is frayed, uneven, chewed at the edges by a goat once during a market trip. You sewed it back with a bone needle and sinew. It holds, but not with grace. There is no underlayer, just skin and rough weave. You've grown used to the chafing, mostly. When the sun is high, the linen clings to you like second skin, wet, hot, and unrelenting. When the sun dips and the wind creeps in, it flaps loose like a flag announcing your poverty. Sometimes, when the wind is crueler than usual, you wrap an old wool shawl around your shoulders. It is the color of bruises. It carries the scent of stale smoke and barley. It was once beautiful, you can tell from the faded embroidery at the edge. But that was many winters ago. Now it mostly serves to remind you what once was precious, and what no longer is. Your sandals are simple, leather thongs wrapped around thickened soles made from whatever could be found, sometimes wood, sometimes reed pressed tight. They slap the ground when you walk, announcing your arrival to flies and men alike. When they break, you fix them. When they break again, you tie them tighter. When they cannot be fixed, you go barefoot. You do not own more than this. There are no shelves of folded options, no silk tucked away for holy days. You have this tunic, these sandals, this shawl, and the calluses that grow beneath them. You remember vaguely the one time you wore something fine. It was a borrowed robe, offered by a merchant cousin who wanted to show you off to a matchmaker. You wore it stiffly like borrowed pride. The matchmaker looked you up and down, saw your cracked heels, your swollen knuckles, your sun-darkened brow, and said nothing. The robe was returned that night, heavy with your sweat and your disappointment. No one has offered you fine cloth since. You pass others in the street, priests in white high-cut robes with beads that glint in the sun, scribes with tightly belted tunics and clean sandals, their hems never touching the filth. Noble women carried beneath parasols, their gowns embroidered with gold thread and painted gods, trailing perfumes that cling to your throat like incense. You are not one of them. You are clay beneath their feet. You are shadow made of salt. You are dust given just enough form to carry things. Still, there is a kind of ritual to dressing. You do it with care, even when the fabric mocks you. You fold the tunic over your shoulder just so. You check the knots of your belt. Tight, but not cruel. You tuck in the frayed corner where the reed mat rubbed it thin. You pull your shawl across your chest. Even if the morning is already hot, there is comfort in the covering. Not safety, not dignity, but comfort. A girl once laughed at the way your tunic clung to you after a rainstorm. She said it made you look like a drowned rat wrapped in parchment. You laughed too because it hurt less than punching her brother. You still think about that moment sometimes. How shame can become memory. How laughter can soften a wound if you give it permission. You carry a small pouch tied to your waist. It holds a few dried figs, a folded scrap of old papyrus, a string that once belonged to a cat. These are not treasures, but they are yours. The pouch itself is made from an old piece of goatskin stitched with uneven thread. You worry it will split one day and spill your life onto the street. You wonder if anyone would even notice. Your belt is made from twisted cord, once blue now gray with time and sweat. You've replaced it twice, but the knots you tied into it remain. You don't untie them. You can't. You've forgotten how. The belt cinches more than your tunic. It holds your silence together. It binds your ribs to your spine. It reminds you where you end. There are no mirrors in your home. You've only glimpsed yourself in still water, in broken pots, in oil puddles. Your face is familiar only in touch. You know the line of your jaw by how it stings when slapped. You know your cheekbones from the way they press against your palm when you cry. You know your lips because they split and bleed when the dry winds come. You've never thought of yourself as beautiful. But once a boy at the market said your eyes looked like storm clouds. He may have meant it as an insult, but you held it as a secret praise. There is a thread wrapped around your wrist, dyed red from a festival long past. No one remembers what the festival was for, but you keep the thread anyway. For protection, or luck, or simply because it's something that isn't mud-colored. Once someone said your clothes made you invisible. You thought that was cruel. Now you think it might be a kind of freedom. To pass unnoticed, to blend with walls and crowds, to be forgettable, unthreatening, unbothered. But invisibility is cold. It doesn't shield you from the sun or the sharpness of other people's eyes. It doesn't stop hands from grabbing, or voices from accusing, or power from pressing down. Your clothes do not protect you, but they are your only skin. You gather the folds around your waist as you step into the day. The hem drags in dust. The belt digs into your belly. The shawl slides from your shoulder. You adjust nothing. You move forward. And maybe, if you are still enough, quiet enough, ordinary enough, the world will not notice you. Or maybe it will. And maybe then you'll remember what it felt like to be someone. But for now, just walk. There is work ahead, and dust, and always the heat. Let it wrap around you like cloth. And maybe now you can rest a moment, even standing. You wake before the sun, not because you want to, but because the city stirs before the sky has time to blush. You are summoned, not by bells, not by any divine whisper, but by soundless expectation, a silence that tightens like a noose around your sleep until even dreams must give in. There is no soft bed to leave behind, just the woven mat, brittle and curling at the edges, etched with the shape of your body like a worn-out prophecy. The reed fibers leave patterns on your cheek and the back of your thighs. You do not smooth them away. They are part of you now, as much as hunger or thirst or the ache behind your eyes. You sit up slowly, not because you are lazy, but because fast movements betray foolishness. Each joint is consulted, each muscle asked politely if it will cooperate. Your knees hesitate, your back mutters, your neck stiffens like the clay jars left too long in the sun. This is the choreography of the forgotten rise slowly without drama. No one claps for you here. The air is already warm, not pleasant, clammy, As if the city itself sweats in its sleep, dust hangs low, waiting for footsteps to stir it into memory. You tie your belt tighter and press your palm to the floor, grounding yourself not in ceremony, but in certainty. The floor has always been there. The sky, not so much. You move through shadowed spaces, dodging other bodies still curled like question marks on the floor. Family, neighbors, names have long since frayed. In the dark, everyone is kin, or a stranger. It doesn't matter. Outside, the streets are still dreaming, but they dream loud. Merchants whispering to their ledgers, goats muttering about thirst, carts creaking with ambition. You do not speak yet. The first words of your day must be spent wisely. They are not infinite. You head toward the basin. The water is not cold. That would be a kindness. It is tepid, still from yesterday, and carries the smell of feet and faded lilies. You splash your face, not to cleanse. There is no such thing, but to remind yourself that you have a face. You do not look into the water. It does not care who you are. You dab the corners of your eyes, rub beneath your nose, scrape a fingernail against the grime behind your ears. There. You are ready, not clean, just ready. Beside you, a woman hums as she braids her daughter's hair. The girl cries, not loudly, just enough to remind the world that children do not enjoy being prepared for their own misery. You watch for a moment, then turn away. You have no hair to braid, only tasks to perform. You chew a bitter root, not for nourishment, it offers none, but because your stomach expects some kind of offering before the day can begin. You've tried skipping it before. The nausea was worse than the root's taste. You spit the fibers into your palm and flick them away. A man you know nods at you in passing. He does not say your name. He may not remember it, but he nods. It is enough. In this city, recognition is a currency far rarer than coin. You cross into the lower district where the vendors begin setting out their jars. Barley, oil, lentils, incense, fish already daring to smell. A boy chases a chicken past your feet. You do not react. You've been chased by worse. There is a corner where 3 men squat each morning, playing a game with pebbles and curses. They don't look up as you pass. That is how you know you are still safe. When the eyes rise, danger follows. You reach the temple wall. You are not a priest, not allowed inside, but you walk alongside it anyway. The stones are cool in the morning and carry the breath of prayers you are not permitted to speak. You touch one briefly, just once, as if to steal a little holiness before the day begins. Your work has not yet started, but already you are tired. You do not own the luxury of rituals involving incense or chants or folded silks. Your morning is made of friction, cloth against skin, heel against dust, silence against breath. But still there is ritual here. The order of movements, the sequence of thoughts, the sacredness of repetition. Each morning you pretend the city sees you. Each morning you pretend you are new. Each morning you pretend something might change. And then you untie the thought like a knot from your belt, and let it go. There is grain to grind, mud to haul, water to fetch, faces to avoid, tasks to complete. But for now the sun is still low, the city yawns, and you are still invisible enough to breathe without consequence. So breathe, and move, and let the morning carry you like a river that does not care where you end up. And maybe if you listen closely you'll hear the sound of something ancient stirring beneath the dust, not a god, not a memory, just the quiet echo of thousands who woke just like you. And maybe now you can rest, just for a breath. You don't speak of it. No one does. Not in the morning, not in public, not even when the stench rides the breeze like an insult. But it happens, and it must happen. And now is the moment. Your stomach grumbles in a way that feels more like surrender than warning. Not pain, not hunger, just inevitability. You look around, not for privacy, there is none, but for a gap in the rhythm of the day, a lull between glances, a break in footsteps. You find none, so you go anyway. Down past the rows of earthen homes, past the cracked storage jars and sleeping dogs, past the patch where elders sit and watch without blinking. They know where you're going. They always do. Their eyes don't follow, but their silence does. You reach the edge of the drainage ditch. This is not a place. It sits in absence. A corridor where the waste of thousands flows in slow denial, refusing to disappear, refusing to be forgotten. You step over a broken reed mat. It's been there for weeks. Someone tried to cover something once. The attempt has long since rotted. There is a pit here. Not dug, just worn by use, as if the earth itself has grown tired of resistance. No walls, no roof. A few stones surround it, placed not out of kindness but necessity. To squat is to balance. To balance is to survive. You lower yourself slowly, knees popping, breath held. The heat from the pit rises with a dampness that should not exist in a dry land. It finds your nose, your eyes, the back of your tongue. It speaks the language of every body that has passed before you. You do not gag. You have trained for this. The sound it makes is a quiet betrayal, not loud, not shameful, just intimate. A confession whispered into the dust. A fly lands on your knee. You let it. To swat is to invite the rest. You stare at the wall of a crumbling home just ahead. It has graffiti, not art, just scratches. Symbols someone once etched to say, I was here, I had time, I had nothing better to do. You understand that feeling now. There sits no water. Not here. Not close. The river is far, and even if it weren't, that water is not for this. This is your shame to carry home. So you rise, wipe with a stone. Yes, a stone. There is nothing softer. Sometimes leaves, if they haven't been claimed by goats. Sometimes rags if someone died recently. You do not wince. The skin adjusts, or forgets. You toss the stone aside, where dozens of others lie in a sad little pile, a graveyard of modest dignity. And then you walk back, not proud, not broken, just returned. Your neighbors don't even greet you. That would make it real. That would acknowledge that everyone does this, and everyone pretends not to. Someone throws a pot of ashes across the path. The smell masks your return, a kindness perhaps, or a coincidence. Back near your dwelling, a child plays with a clay figurine. She holds it upside down. The god frowns. You sit on the threshold and stretch your back. There is no comfort, only alignment. You breathe through your mouth, and even that feels wrong. This was not the worst part of your day. Not even close. But it sets the one no one prepares you for. The one that proves you are an animal with rituals, a creature with needs that will never be poetic. You feel cleaner, in a way. Not in body. In honesty. The city takes everything else, your name, your voice, your strength. But this humbling, reeking moment is yours. Undeniably yours. And for now, that sep's enough. The air shifts. Someone stirs a pot of lentils nearby. The smell hits you like a dare. And maybe now, you can breathe again. Maybe now you can rest, just until the next task comes calling. It scratches you before you even open your eyes. That familiar itch at the base of your neck, the one that feels like dried grass rubbing against sunburn. You blink into the dawn haze, and the linen is already clinging. It always clings. Your tunic is not yours. It never was. It belonged to someone older, someone bigger, someone forgotten. The threads are frayed, and the hem hangs uneven like a question someone never answered. It smells of salt and sweat and oil from a fire long gone out. You don't own much. No jewelry, no sandals. Just a length of rough flax fiber cloth, dyed once, long ago, now faded into a colorless memory. You tie it around your waist, not for modesty, for function. The sun is already rising, and your skin will not be spared. You feel the fabric pinch under your arms as you stretch. It splits a little more at the seam. You'll stitch it again with twine if twine can be spared. If not, it will simply hang open, and no one will care. Your legs are bare. Your arms too. There is no armor here, not for your kind. Only calluses, only dust. A woman nearby wraps her head in a strip of cloth. Her hair is shaved short, not for beauty but to keep the lice from winning. You do the same. Wrap the heat around your skull. It doesn't help, but it gives the illusion of trying. On colder mornings, rare but remembered, you've worn layers of wool. Thick, coarse, heavy with the scent of goat and fire smoke. But today the sun will rise fast and high, and you need to move freely. So you take the lightest layer, already stained with yesterday's oil and the day before's blood from a thorn scratch. You fold it once across your chest, tuck it under itself, and call it dressed. Your feet throb from yesterday's walk to the scribe's quarter. There is no bandage, just the hope that the wound once set open again. Just the habit of not looking down. In the alleys, a merchant's son ties red thread around his wrist. Protection, they say. From spirits. From bad luck. You envy him the color. You once had a bead. Just one. Blue chipped, shaped like a teardrop. It was taken during a night of shouting and broken jars. You never found it again. Sometimes you see the priests in the temple. They wear robes that shimmer with oil and incense. They smell like clouds and smoke. Their sandals are soft leather curled at the toe like the tail of a sleeping cat. You look at your own reflection in a puddle, a face half shadowed by grime, half lost in ripples, a neck marked by sun, a shoulder freckled with ash. You press the fabric tighter around your body, not to cover, but to feel something that is yours, even if only in this moment. The day will dirty it again. The market sips dust. The cook sips spit. The blood of fish or fowl or man. And tonight, when you lie back down, it will become your blanket. And maybe, if the wind is merciful, you'll forget that it's all the same cloth. Your fingers brush the edge of your tunic again. You pull a loose thread. It doesn't come free. It winds around itself like fate. Like history. Like Babylon, holding you tight in a grip that looks like fabric but feels like stone. Someone calls your name. Not kindly, but not cruelly either. Just another day. Another morning dressed in dust. And maybe now, you can move. Maybe now you can step into the heat with the illusion of protection. Because clothes do not comfort. Not here. They simply mark you as alive. For now, rest your shoulders. The thread will hold at least until dusk. And that sep's enough for today. It doesn't sting like a bell. Not the kind you sit imagine. No bronze, no melody. Just a hollow thunk, the sound of wood on wood struck twice by a tired man with a crooked wrist. You feel it in your chest before your ears catch it. 2 beats. Always 2. The signal to begin. The air is still damp with river breath. The clay walls around you sweat. Someone groans from their mat, and another curses quietly. You don't move just yet. Not because you're lazy, but because there is a moment, one precious moment, when the world forgets you exist. A moment between the second knock and the first command. You stay there wrapped in linen and dust, eyes barely open, pretending for a breath that you are not you. Then come the feet, sandals slapping the stone, bare heels skidding across dried straw. Someone yells for a younger brother. Someone else has already begun coughing. Deep, chest-hollowing coughs that have become part of the morning song. The bell sounds again, not because it must, but because the man with the crooked wrist doesn't know what else to do with his time. You rise. There is no washing basin, just a shared bucket with a sheen of oil and someone else's hair floating in it. You dip a cloth in, rub it across your neck. It stings. Salt, mostly. And whatever illness lingers on the rim of communal hands. The sun is barely visible beyond the rooftops. A sliver of copper light splits the edge of the alley. Soon it will spill. A dog barks. It sits chained, as always. Its ribs show as always. Your legs are sore. Your spine tight from sleeping curled like a hook. But you stretch. Because it helps. Because the ache feels more honest than the silence. Someone pulls a goat down the lane. The goat resists. You understand. The temple drums begin, soft, distant, patient. You are not going there. You are not of that world. You are of the bell, the bucket, the crusted heel, the tunic that smells like yesterday Sep's breath. Today you carry bricks, or sweep courtyards, or scrub soot from the floor of a merchant's dining room. You don't yet know. The overseer decides as he sees you. If your eyes are too red, he'll put you in the sun. If your hands are too clean, he'll smear them with work. You step into the street, The city has already begun, not with ceremony but with necessity. Flies dance over old offerings. A child squats near a corner, humming a tune older than speech. A woman beats a rug, cursing something that won't be dislodged. You nod to no one, and no one nods back. The man with the crooked wrist walks past you, dragging the bell stick behind him. It scrapes the dirt like a tail. He doesn't look up. He never does. The light grows, and with it the world wakes louder. A pot breaks 2 doors down. Someone blames a spirit. Someone else blames their son. You begin walking toward the place where someone will tell you what to do. You pass a boy painting symbols onto clay, his fingers nimble, his eyes blank. You pass a woman hunched over a basket, whispering to it as if it might answer. The bell echoes again in your memory. Just 2 knocks. But they shape the whole day. You wonder who made the rule, who chose the rhythm. Was there once a 3rd knock? Did someone forget it? Did Babylon decide 2 was enough? The bell has no story, only function, only command, and still it holds you. Just like the walls, just like the heat, just like the weight of knowing nothing will change, but everything somehow will cost you more. You reach the threshold of the courtyard. The overseer is there. He points. You nod. You begin. But before your hand touches the first thing that must be moved, you close your eyes one last time, and in that flicker of darkness you imagine a bell that calls you not to labor but to dream. It doesn't set ring. It sings. Just once. Softly. And maybe that's enough to carry you through the next hour. Maybe that sip's enough to survive the day. You feel it before you decide. The pressure low in your belly. The dull twisting. The certainty that you cannot wait until later. There is no privacy in Babylon. Not for someone like you. Not for the poor, the labor-bound, the nameless. Privacy is a kind of wealth, and you are bankrupt. You make your way past cracked walls and weaving baskets, past flies spinning in the air like curses. No one looks at you. They all know where you stir going. They will all go too. The latrine is behind the grain storage. Near the edge of the quarter where the smell is no longer an insult but simply the air itself. You pass a puddle that might be water but probably isn't. You step over it carefully. Your sandals are made of leather scraps barely held together with twine, and you've already patched the left sole 3 times this month. The latrine is not a room. It is not even enclosed. It is a pit, lined with uneven bricks, covered in the morning by a flat plank with a hole carved in it, wide enough for most but not all. You wait your turn. You do not speak. The man before you emerges with his head down, wiping his hands on the hem of his tunic. You do not meet his eyes. That sets the rule. Even here, the sun has begun to warm the stones, and the flies have multiplied. They know this place. They cling to the edges, hover like judgment. You step up to the plank. It wobbles. You squat. You wince. You do not breathe through your nose. There is no covering smell. No incense. No oils. No herbs. Only what lives in the pit. The buzzing grows louder. You try not to imagine what seeps below. But you do. There are stories, always stories of men who fell in. Children, especially. Their bodies never recovered. Just swallowed into the waste of the city, into the forgotten digestion of 1,000 daily needs. The waste pit is a god in its own way. Feeding, receiving, demanding. You offer your small prayer in silence. When you are done, you use what seeps near. A shard of pottery smoothed at one edge. A curled leaf. A handful of dust and sand rubbed raw against your skin. There is water nearby in a bowl dark with use. You splash your hands once. Twice. You do not know if you are cleaner or simply wetter. Your fingers smell like the city. You wipe them on the side of your tunic. Someone waits behind you. You step aside. You do not speak. You return the same way you came. But now the heat feels sharper. Now the air bites a little more. There's just no shame in what you used to have done. Only repetition. Only the understanding that you will return. Again. And again. There is no separation between body and duty in Babylon. What exits you becomes part of the world again. washed into the channels, scooped by hand for compost, carried in baskets to the fields. The circle is not poetic. It is pungent. It is functional. It is inescapable. You pass two women whispering near a wall. They laugh as you walk by. Not at you. Or maybe at you. You do not ask. Your belly is lighter, but your shoulders still sag. The labor is only just beginning. The overseer will not care where you have been, only that you are not yet back. The sun climbs. The air thickens. You walk faster now, and you do not look back, because in Babylon the gods may watch your prayers, but the city always remembers your stench. You carry mud in your hands, not as punishment, not as ritual, but simply because it is what you are told to do. The mud is warm when the sun is up, cold before dawn. Sometimes it squelches between your fingers. Sometimes it is dry and crumbling, and you must spit into it or soak it with water carried from the canal in a leaky jar with no handle. You are a laborer. That word feels too generous. You are a mover of weight, a bearer of burdens that aren't set yours. You are the thing between brick and wall, between plan and tower. You are what grinds away quietly, expected, invisible, easily replaced. The foreman does not know your name. He doesn't set need to. He knows your shape, the bend of your spine, the slowness of your left leg since the injury. He yells and you respond before thinking. That is your job. That is all of you. Today you build walls. Or rather, you carry what others build. You drag the bricks, freshly molded, still damp. They stir heavier than they look. And they smell like the toilet pit, because the clay is mixed with ash, with straw, and sometimes with waste. Your fingers are already raw. The edges of the bricks slice through skin like dried salt. There sits blood on your knuckles. You don't notice when it starts. You only notice when it dries, and the flies begin to gather. The wall you help raise is for someone richer than you. Of course it is. A merchant? A priest? A scribe who owns more styluses than you've ever owned shoes. It doesn't matter. The house will rise. And when it sets done, you once set me allowed inside. You still see its shadow from your mat. You'll watch the smoke from its cook fires drift into your own home. You'll carry their waste and their grain and their bricks again. The hours pass slowly, marked not by clocks but by aches. First the back, then the shoulders, then the head, always the head, as the sun drills into you like an overseer who doesn't blink. You are allowed to drink twice. The water tastes of mud and copper. It is warm, not soothing, but it does enough to keep you upright. There are no breaks. There is only slowing down, until someone notices. You lift another basket. The rope handle digs into your palm. You think, briefly, of dropping it. But the last man who did that got a welt across his face that turned black within a day. He hasn't been seen since. So you lift. You walk. You place. And again. And again. Someone hums nearby. A song you don't know. You hum with them anyway. Not for joy, but for rhythm. Rhythm makes things tolerable. Rhythm means the day is still moving. A child walks past carrying a basket bigger than her chest. She does not stumble. She is used to it. The heat thickens. Your tunic clings to your ribs. Your sweat collects in the folds of your arms, your knees, the crease of your back. The mud hardens under your nails. You scratch your scalp and leave a smear like war paint. And still, you lift. And walk. And place. This wall will not remember you. The house it protects will forget your breath. Your hands are the ghost in its foundation. But you know, somewhere beneath the exhaustion, beneath the ache, that without you, it would crumble. And somehow, that is enough for today. The sun slips a little lower. The bricks dry faster now. The shadows lengthen across your feet. Someone calls the end. A whistle. A grunt. You set the last basket down. You wipe your hands on your tunic. Then you lift it to your face and wipe again. The cloth smells like everything. Sweat, earth, oil, smoke, skin. But it is yours. You return the basket. You nod at the foreman. He does instead nod back. The work is done, for now. But tomorrow waits, already sharpening its bricks, already mixing its mud. Sleep is not yet earned, but its sex coming, slowly, like the dusk. You wake the next morning already guilty, not of theft, not of blasphemy, not even of laziness, though that's the one they love to accuse. You are guilty of being born where you were to whom you were, with nothing in your hand but a reed mat and a name no one pronounces right. In ancient Babylon that sep's more than enough. The streets do not greet you. They part for the priest. They bow for the merchant. They still themselves for the man in linen whose sandals never touch the mud. But for you they close up again. They swallow your footprints like water drinks dust. You are not invisible. You are simply unwanted. And yet they always know when you are too slow, too loud, too close. A guard once spat at your feet because your shadow touched his sandal. He didn't say a word, just the hiss of spit and the warning in his eyes. You learned to shrink that day. You learned to step sideways, to bow without bowing, to ask for space without asking. Children laugh at you, not because you stare funny, but because someone taught them that your walk is wrong, that your tunic is stained, that your face looks like the side of a pot that's been over the fire too long. Their parents say nothing. A merchant's wife once brushed past you and whispered, "Move, reed rat," as if you were a mistake in the architecture of her day. You told no one, because to speak it is to remember it. Your friends, if you could call them that, are the others who labor. You know their backs more than their voices. You share water more than words. You laugh sometimes, but only when the foreman isn't sit looking. Only when the sun is down and your bones are too tired to care. There are moments, soft ones, that slip in like stolen figs. An old woman handing you half a loaf without meeting your eyes. A neighbor helping you rewrap your injured foot without asking how it happened. A boy offering you a fig with a worm already wriggling out, not out of cruelty but because it's still sweet on the other side. These are not kindnesses. They are survivals. No one owes you tenderness here. And yet, sometimes the world forgets to be cruel. And that seps when you breathe a little easier. Your mother, before she left the world, told you, "Don't let to make noise around those who think they invented silence." You muse followed that ever since. You speak softly. You work quietly. You never walk through the temple side of the street unless you absolutely must. You keep your eyes lowered around scribes, because a written word can bury a man faster than a sword. You bow, not because they deserve it, but because your knees have learned which way keeps them from being broken. At night you dream of being seen, but not by royalty or gods or judges, just by someone who says your name the right way, and means it. You remember once, just once, someone did. She was a girl who sold dates near the city gate. You helped her pick up her spilled basket when a donkey cart knocked it over. She said, "Thank you," and touched your shoulder, not like you were a beggar, not like you were dirt, but like you were real. You never saw her again, but her voice lives inside you, like a secret well. The truth is, you are more clay than man in their eyes, moldable, replaceable, useful, disposable, but you are still here, and their midst is a stubbornness in that, a quiet rebellion in continuing to rise with the sun, to carry what isn't set yours, to be the bones beneath the city and not ask for more than breath. Maybe that sip's all there is. Not justice, not glory, just persistence. And for tonight, that sip's enough. You wake to an itch behind your knee. That's not new. It's just not even interesting anymore. Just the steady throb of skin rubbed raw by too much dust, too much salt, too little rest. You scratch it without thinking. A line of dried blood breaks open again. The morning stinks, not of something wrong, but of what's always been. Your own body smells like the day before, like every day before. Sweat, smoke, clay, sour breath, worn wool, and something you never quite name, the scent of skin slowly dying but never allowed to rot. The bathhouses are for the elite. Priests, scribes, landowners, men with rings, men whose words matter more than their sores. You are not invited. You wash when you can, In river water thick with silt and the soap made from animal ash. It scratches. It smells worse than you do. Your fingernails are black. Not from ink. Not from soil. From whatever grows beneath them. You stopped looking closely months ago. You've convinced yourself it's better not to know. Sometimes you dream of being clean. Not just clean, soaked. Submerged in a basin where the water doesn't run brown around your legs. Where someone else pours water over your head and says, breathe. But dreams are for gods and fever. Your gums bleed when you chew. Soft things hurt less. So you suck on boiled roots and hope they fill the ache for a while. There's a man who works beside you, missing most of his teeth. They fell out in pairs last summer. He laughed about it, but you saw the way he cried behind the kiln. You know how it begins. A sore on the ankle that never quite heals. A cough that once said leave. Eyes that blur just enough to stumble once, then again. And when it starts, you hide it. Because no one helps the sick. They step away from you. They mutter about spirits, curses, broken vows. A woman once poured beer on a man's chest as he gasped through fever, whispering a hymn to a healing God. He died anyway. And they blamed her. You wrap your sores in cloth. You say nothing. Pain is normal. Pain is expected. Pain is the body, remembering where its sep's been. There is no perfume here. Only incense that chokes the gods, and masks the scent of sweat from those who can afford to burn something just to smell better. You wipe yourself with a scrap of linen you rinse and reuse until it disintegrates. There are no mirrors. Only puddles, and puddles lie. You've forgotten what your face looked like before it became this. This weathered, creased, sun-bitten thing. Your eyes are yellow at the edges now. Your lips crack when you laugh too hard. So you don't. Children have lice. Adults do too. But adults pretend they don't set. You've seen a priest slap a child for scratching his scalp. As if the shame of infestation is worse than the thing itself. Sometimes you think the lice are the only things that truly know you. They stay. They multiply. They feast. A strange intimacy. You once pulled a worm from a wound on your thigh. You didn't outscream. You didn't even blink. You just burned the edge with a hot nail and bit your tongue until the blood from your leg wasn't the only taste in your mouth. There is no nurse, no salve, no soft cloth. You clean yourself with spit and river silt. You live like something waiting to be devoured, slowly, not all at once. And yet, somehow, you keep waking up. Somehow, you keep walking. Somehow, the filth doesn't kill you. It just becomes part of the map of your skin, a language written in boils and scars, a record of everything you have survived. You scratch your arm again. Blood rises, then dries. It is quiet, and you are still here. So rest now. Tomorrow will stink again, but you've lived through worse. And that sep's enough. You know the sound of punishment before you see it. It is not the cry that comes later. It is the silence first. The kind of silence that feels like someone holding their breath over an open flame. The kind of silence that makes children stand still. Then comes the low voice. Not shouting. Just reading. Word by word. From a clay tablet held aloft like a god's decree. Then comes the whip. Not always a whip, but today, yes, the whip. Braided leather soaked in water to make it bite deeper. You don't turn to look. You've learned not to. Because looking means witnessing. And witnessing means remembering. And remembering that sep's dangerous. Here memory can be mistaken for defiance. You've seen a man lose a hand for stealing a handful of grain. You've seen a woman chained in the marketplace for daring to speak back to a priest. The laws are not hidden. They are written in public. Carved into black basalt for all to see. If you can read, you can stet. But you've heard them recited. If a builder's wall falls and kills the owner's son, the builder's son is killed. If a woman is accused of adultery, she is thrown into the river. If a debtor cannot pay, he becomes the payment. There are hundreds, and they echo in your bones like rain in a jar. They say this is justice, that the gods demand it. But the gods are very quiet. When it is your turn, the city has its own heartbeat, and justice is one of its thudding drums, relentless, rhythmic, and not always in time with mercy. You once saw a boy beaten for smiling at the wrong woman. He smiled because she wore a red sash, because she looked like spring, because he was young. They broke his nose. He never smiled again. And when you pass the wall with the carvings, the edicts of Hammurabi, you try to look reverent. But you do not feel reverence. You feel fear, and you call it respect. Sometimes it is hard to tell the difference. There are men with staffs who call themselves watchers. They do not smile. They do not sleep. And they do not forgive. You avoid them, even if you have done nothing wrong, because sometimes that sick's not enough. Wrongness, here, can be imagined. And imagination kills more efficiently than blades. There is no trial, no jury. There is judgment. There is accusation. There is punishment. And sometimes, rarely, there is exile. But exile is worse than death. It is erasure. To be cast out of the city is to be forgotten. To vanish from the scroll of names. To lose even the shape of your own voice in the wind. You stirred rather face the whip. You have learned to speak carefully. To keep your eyes low. To nod even when you do not agree. Not because you are weak, but because you are still alive. And here, that is a victory. You dream sometimes of a place where justice means kindness, where law doesn't taste like iron or smell like fire. But you wake before that dream can finish. You wake to the sound of leather cracking against someone else's skin. You do not flinch anymore. And the silence before the sentence comes again. Just like yesterday. Just like tomorrow. And still, somehow, you are not the one being punished. So rest now. And be still. There are eyes that watch even dreams. The sun has not set, not truly. It hovers low, bloated and red like an old wound, dripping heat instead of blood. But the work is done, for now, and that means dinner. If you're lucky, the clay streets are crowded again. Men with bare feet and slumped shoulders shuffle home. Women carry baskets with more air than bread. Children trail behind them, dusty, quiet, older than their years. You follow the scent. Salted fish, stewed lentils, charred onions burnt into the bottom of a blackened pot. The smells blur together into something almost comforting. Almost. You don't eat in silence, but the talk means nothing. Grunts, sighs, swears. A prayer whispered by someone who doesn't believe it anymore. You sit cross-legged on a mat that has known too many backs. The clay bowl before you is chipped, warm and heavy. Tonight's meal, a porridge of barley, thick with paste and strange sweetness. Someone dropped in dates. You stir, not sure if it says a blessing or a trap. You chew slowly, careful not to show too much hunger, because that invites sharing. And you need every bite. There sticks a bone in the center of the stew, picked clean, still placed in the pot like a memory. The others don't speak to you directly, but they grunt when you reach too fast. They eye your bowl when you hesitate. A man beside you spits a seed against the wall. It sticks. He smiles. You haven't tasted meat in weeks. Not really. Fat. Yes. Rind. Maybe. But meat. That's for the scribes, the priests, the men who own names etched in stone. The rest of you, you chew what sep's left. You drink from a shared jug. It sets warm. Fermented. Not quite wine, not quite water, but it numbs the tongue, and after enough gulps it numbs the memory. You don't look at your reflection in the surface. Not anymore. The firelight makes everyone look haunted. Eyes too deep. Cheeks too hollow. Someone coughs blood into their sleeve and pretends it was dust. No one corrects them, because it might have been. And if it wasn't set, it will be soon. You finish the last of your bowl with your fingers. They caked in ash from the hearth. You lick them anyway, because waste is worse than shame. A boy gets up too quickly and sways. Someone laughs. Someone else doesn't set. You lean back. Belly not full, just less empty. Your legs are sore from squatting. Your hands smell like onion and sweat. You breathe in deeply, hoping the scent might convince your mind you've eaten more. There is no dessert. Only the dull scrape of bowls, the soft hum of someone cleaning with a reed brush, the sound of clay being stacked, a pot cracking in the cold, and footsteps fading. Always footsteps fading. No one says goodnight. There are no rituals. Only fatigue. Only survival. Tomorrow it will taste the same. But you still eat. Because eating means you made it. One more night. And for now, that sip's enough. Sleep now. And let the taste fade on your tongue like all the other things you've had to swallow. The floor beneath you is still warm from the day's heat. It does not offer comfort, just proof that the sun once passed here. You lie curled in a shape your body has memorized from many nights, your arm crooked beneath your head, your spine bent like the reed mats drying by the river. There is no blanket, only the rough cloth of your tunic still damp at the collar with the sweat of evening. And yet, you do sleep. Eventually, your breath slows, your muscles twitch, your thoughts loosen their grip. And into that empty space, the dreams come. Some nights, you are walking through the ziggurat's inner corridors, barefoot and silent, trailing your fingers along sacred walls painted with gods who never blink. Other nights, you dream of the sky, wide and impossible. You are not allowed to look too long at the stars in waking life. They belong to the astrologers, the scribes, the readers of fate. But in your sleep you steal them. You climb up to the roof of the world and scoop constellations into your mouth like berries. You dream of rain that doesn't sting your eyes, of rivers that don't flood, of women whose hands are soft, of figs so ripe they fall into your lap. You dream of being tall, of being heard, of being someone whose name is written down, not just whispered, not just forgotten. And sometimes you dream of your mother Sip's voice. You haven't heard it in years. You aren't even sure it's as really hers anymore. But the dream gives her back to you just for a moment. Soft hands, warm lap, a song without words. Other times, the dreams betray you. You're drowning in a mud brick alley, pulling at walls that collapse into your throat. You're running from priests with golden eyes and tongues like fire. You're being judged by a god shaped like an ox, who weighs your breath on a scale you cannot see. You wake with your fingers clenched, with your back slick with sweat, with your heart still racing, even though nothing chased you. You lie still, trying not to cry out, because even dreams have ears in this city. You wonder sometimes if dreams are messages, or if they are simply what's left of you that cannot be punished. You wonder what the king dreams of, if he dreams at all, or if his nights are full of silence too heavy for dreaming. You know better than to ask. There is a superstition that dreaming of flight means death, that dreaming of bread means betrayal, that dreaming of water is a warning. You've dreamed all three, and still you go on, because there are nights when the dream is simply this. A door opens, and no one stops you. You walk past the city walls, and no one calls your name. You keep walking. You keep walking. You do not know where you are going, but you are not afraid. And that, in this world, is the rarest dream of all. Now, the moon has moved. The heat has lifted slightly. The mat beneath you itches less than before. Your eyes flutter, and if the dream returns, you will welcome it like a thief slipping in through the cracks. Sleep now, and let your mind go where your body never could. You wake with a dry mouth and the weight of your own heartbeat pressing on your ribs. Outside, the clay breathes. Inside, the air hangs like held in panic. You don't speak of death here. Not directly, but you count it. Every day, in glances, in absences, in silence that smells too much like soap and too little like breath. Sometimes it is the fever, the slow kind that begins with a shiver you pretend is just morning. Then the aching, then the ache behind the eyes, then the sweat thick as oil and the certainty that your blood has turned against you. No one nurses you. They wait to see if you rise again. If not, your body will be wrapped in reed mats and placed quietly on the edge of the alley. Someone will chant, someone will spit, and then they will forget. Sometimes it is childbirth. Not yours, maybe, but hers. Your sister, your neighbor, a girl barely old enough to bleed. She screams for hours. Or doesn't set scream at all, which is worse. Then nothing. Then two still shapes wrapped in linen, and a stain that the sun will bleach soon enough. Sometimes, it is the wrong word in the wrong ear, a whisper that grows legs, a glance that offends. You are not important enough to be spared, but you are just important enough to be punished. And so one day, a guard may appear, not angry, just efficient, and you will not return from wherever he takes you. Sometimes, it is the grain, stored too long, eaten too late. You eat anyway, because hunger will kill you faster. But the sickness comes in the night. Cramping, pale vomit, black stools, the unmistakable realization, your body is rotting from within. No one touches you. They tell themselves you were cursed. Sometimes, it is the gods, or at least the people who speak for them. A drought means someone sinned. A stillborn means someone was impure. A lost battle means someone's seventh soul was unclean. It could be you. You one set be asked. You shall be selected, carried, bound. Then your throat, or your chest, or your name, will be open to the wind. And sometimes it is just the wall. You lean wrong. It crumbles. You fall. You strike your head. And the stars you dreamt of fall with you. There is no meaning. Just a crack in the stone and one fewer bowl at dinner. Still you go on. You walk carefully. Speak softly. Chew slowly. Watch the sky for birds that don't sit belong. Listen to the dogs, because they always know before you do. And yet, even the careful die. Especially them. Because the world is wide, and you are not. Because the sun is cruel, and the laws are wild, and your body is soft in all the wrong places. But still, you rise. You eat. You bend. You breathe. You do not die, today. And in this city, that is enough. Sleep now, while you still can, while the wind does not call your name. You hear about them, sometimes. Not in stories, exactly, but in overheard mutterings. In the laughter of merchants who've been to other cities. In the jealous sighs of scribes who copy letters they cannot read aloud. There are things beyond these walls, but they were never meant for you. You will never see the sea. You've heard it sets like a sky that drowns, that it moves forever, that it has no master, but your world is canals and clay. You know the weight of river silt, the smell of swampweed, the hiss of crocodiles. The sea might as well be a myth, like a god who never asks for blood. You will never see a library. There is one not far from here. Stone walls, clay shelves, a place where the air itself is made of thought. But you are not permitted inside. Your fingers are calloused, not clean. You carry baskets, not tablets. You walk past its walls sometimes. You hear the scratching of reeds on wet clay. And you wonder, what would it be like to know something no one can take? You will never see the stars up close. Not the way the priests do with polished stones and oil mirrors. You are allowed to glimpse, but not to chart. To name them would be a crime. So you make up your own names in secret. That bright one near the roof beam, you call it the friend. That slow red one by the courtyard, you call it the silent. No one knows but you. And maybe that's seps enough. You will never see a king without paint on his face. You've seen him in parades far away. You've bowed. You've shouted. But you've never seen his tired eyes. You've never heard his voice in a room without echoes. You've never seen his feet, real feet, not the ones carved in stone. You suspect he is less God than rumor, but it would not be safe to say so. You will never see your own reflection clearly. There is water, yes, but it ripples, it muddies, it lies. There are no mirrors here, just bronze bowls, dull and dented. You've glimpsed your face in them, distorted like a ghost. And some nights you wonder, if you vanish tomorrow, who would remember what you looked like? You will never see your name written down, because it seems not meant to be written. Your name is said, not saved. It passes from mouth to mouth, like wind, like plague, like song. When you are gone, it will not remain. And maybe that is the most ancient magic of all, to live without permanence. To breathe, knowing no stone will carry you forward. Still, you see things no one else does. The way the clay cracks after the morning bell. The shimmer on the water before the moon rises. The way the wind shifts just before the priest calls for silence. You notice. You remember. Even if no one writes it down. Even if no one else looks. And perhaps that too is a kind of seeing. Sleep now. The things you still never see cannot hurt you here. And in dreams, even the sky belongs to you. There is no monument. There will be no shrine. Your bones, if they are lucky, will be wrapped in woven mats and left near the edge of the burial grounds, dry and cracked like everything else. If not, they will mix with dust beneath someone else's sandals. One step, then another, then gone. You do not leave behind a name. Not really. Not in ink, not in stone, not in a list of honored dead. Your name is passed on in breath and memory. A murmur, a cautionary tale, a joke. Something like, remember that one girl who ate the sour barley? That boy who used to sing to the goats? You are not a story. You are a moment. And even that moment softens over time, like the curve of a clay tablet that no one cared to fire. You do not leave behind wealth. What coins you touched were borrowed. What tools you used were handed down and will be handed on again. Even your shoes, if they still hold together, will be taken by someone younger the day after your body is wrapped. And the clothes you wore, they'll be washed in the canal and worn again without comment. It is not cruelty. It is necessity. You do not leave behind children. Or perhaps you do, but they too are borrowed by the world. They may speak your name in the mornings for a while, but the world speaks louder. And eventually even they will speak only of what must be carried, not what was lost. You do not leave behind love. Not the kind sung by poets. Not the kind carved on rings or passed in hidden letters. What you leave behind is warmth. A place on the sleeping mat that took time to cool. A bowl that someone reaches for, forgetting. Until they remember. And then forget again. You do not leave behind justice. No one accounts for your suffering. No one tallies your bruises. There is no redress for the hunger that shaped your spine or the hands that took what they had no right to. But sometimes, what you leave behind is resistance, quiet and small, a song hummed under your breath, a piece of bread shared when you had none to spare, a hand extended to someone who would otherwise be alone. You do not leave behind yourself, not in any way that matters to history, but you lived, you endured. You knelt beside fires and carried water and watched the sun rise again and again and again. And that is no small thing. The city did not notice. The kings did not care. But still, for a time, you were here. And now as the wind returns to the walls and the reed doors hush themselves for night, you can let go. There is nothing more to carry. No more steps to take. No more salt to scrub from your skin. Sleep now. Whatever remains of you is already part of the dust, and the dust at least remembers everything. No one remembers your name. There is no grave marker, no eulogy, no tablet pressed with your birth or your passing. The gods have moved on. The scribes have looked elsewhere. Even the priest with the ceremonial braid who once glimpsed your bowed head at temple has forgotten the shape of your silhouette. But that is not tragedy. Not here, not now. It is simply what happens to people like you. You were always meant to vanish. The city hums without you. Clay bricks still warm beneath the afternoon sun. Merchants still yell over baskets of dried dates. Children still chase each other around piles of broken pottery. Your absence does not bend the walls. It does not break the rhythm of work or prayer. The world, your world, continues. But in small ways something lingers. A bowl that no longer gets filled. A water jug left untouched near the door. A space on the mat no one wants to sleep in yet. These are not memorials. They are echoes. Soon they will be covered over by need. Soon they will become someone else's. But for now, they are yours. You have left nothing to history, but perhaps you have left something to the wind. It still moves through the alleys where you once walked. It still carries the smell of garlic and smoke. It still presses gently against the skin of the woman who borrowed your old sandals. and the child who drinks from your bowl. And maybe, just maybe, that sep's enough. You did not rule. You did not conquer. You did not carve laws or crush rebellions or walk the ziggurat steps with gold on your arms. You lived. You stirred porridge with burned fingers. You scraped your knees on brick. You wept under a sky that never promised you anything. And in the end, when no one was looking, you were still here. You were still breathing. You were still waiting. And now, you are still. The clay will take you. The wind will scatter what the clay does not want. The sun will bake away whatever trace remains. And one day someone will walk past this place, feet bare, eyes forward, and never know you were here. But the dust will know. It always does. Sleep now. No wolves at the door. No cold in your bones. No morning bell to chase you from dreams. You survived another day. And now, at last, you may rest.